deal with airplane peanuts.
Shout out Josh Johnson. I predict will be the first black late night host in history.
Give it up for Josh Johnson!
Shout out to Josh Johnson, who did like a whole hour.
Oh, Josh is killing
Shout out to
it.
Josh.
Prolific.
Prolific.
Since June of 2024, Josh Johnson has released an astonishing 24 hours and 27 minutes of written stand-up comedy on YouTube in an era where the norm is maybe 1 hour every few years. The creation of one of comedy's largest catalogs ever happened right in front of our eyes and has already resulted in nearly 1.3 million new subscribers and 250 million views in the last 12 months alone. Not to mention the Rolling Stone article claiming he's reinvented comedy and an Emmy nomination for his set about Luigi.
His YouTube page, 1.7 million subscribers. It seems like he's dropping a half hour every week.
Every half hour.
And they're all over 1 million, 2 million. This kid is absolutely killing it.
For the past 97 weeks in a row, every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, Josh Johnson has uploaded a brand new stand-up set full of topical jokes and premises that often match up perfectly with the biggest news stories of that week. Almost like his own version of a podcast, except for on stage in front of a crowd with written jokes about each topic woven into analogies about broader subjects and personal stories from his life. Since the rise of the internet, we've witnessed many different methods used by comics to break through to the masses, but Josh Johnson is revolutionizing comedy in a way that we have never seen before, and he doesn't plan on slowing down anytime soon.
You know who's the genius of all this is Josh Johnson. You know about this kid?
Of course.
He's the number 2 on YouTube or whatever.
Wow.
Views. Like, he's
Jesus
huge.
Christ.
Sold out a couple of town halls. He's selling out everywhere. He's doing big theaters. Well, it kind of feels like pot when everyone's like, everything on YouTube's got to be 3 minutes. And then Rogan's like, we're going to do a 3-hour podcast. And it worked.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So you never know.
So you're definitely resonating with this audience in a major, major way. What do you think it is about you on stage that is speaking to these people in such large quantities?
I don't know if I know. I mean, I know what I hope it is. I hope that they see some of what I'm talking about as a little bit speaking to how they feel or what they've been thinking, and that potentially people can see a little bit of themselves in me, because I definitely see a lot of myself in the people that I meet, whether it's people that I meet after shows or people just like on the street or new friends that I make that I get to talk to. I think that there are far more similarities than are really broadcasted. It's very cliche now to talk about how divided we are, but in earnest, I think that there's some like unforced divisions that we have that I think when you point out that they're unnecessary, and you can also like chill people out a bit about it, I think that that's potentially resonating with people. I know that my overall goal is to not just make people laugh, but really make them feel like they can find community with people. And so I would hope that that's a little bit of what's catching on, but I also just hope I'm being as funny as I possibly can.
And another thing that's helped is just consistency. Every single Tuesday, you know that there's going to be a new upload from you. Do you ever struggle to figure out what topic you're going to talk about the next week? The world's getting crazy, so that, you know, there are a lot of topics to choose from, but have you ever been like, man, like what is the obvious thing for this week?
Sometimes I feel like there is no pressure to make sure like each video does better than the last video or whatever like that, because that's not really why any of us are here. Like when you go to a comedy club and you enjoy somebody, you're not thinking about how viral whatever joke would go. You were like, that's a great joke, that made me laugh, I want to share that with other people. And it's like that common experience that makes comedy special. And I think that if you get too bogged down in the numbers, or you get too full of yourself with whatever metrics, I think you miss the overall point of like why we do all this stuff. And yeah, there may be a video one day that nobody vibes to. It's like you have to be prepared for that sort of thing, because I think as long as you're being like authentic, you have to wait for the inevitability that that's going to happen. And then, you know, as long as you stay consistent and you stay in love with the thing that you're doing, then all that stuff passes away, you know? I'm sure there's going to be dips. I'm not saying it as if numbers can't affect me. I'm sure if I uploaded and got like 100 views in a day, I'd be like, man, did I upload wrong? Like, I'm not saying that no person can or should be affected by that stuff, but I also think that it's like a byproduct of the thing that you're doing. You do it with your channel. It's like you not just keep people informed on what's happening in like the comedy world, you also are a conduit for them to celebrate the wins of the people that they enjoy. If you're doing that, then like maybe a video does okay and then maybe a video does great, but you're doing what you're doing. You're not really concerned with that stuff. You're concerned with like spreading the news of good comedy getting out.
Were you always built like this mentally, or was there a point of success where, because when you're first starting out, you have nothing, you could be like, this really matters, you know, especially starting now and seeing what people have built online. Have you always had this perspective when it comes to creating art, or was this something that you got once you reached the level of like, all right, I can breathe a little?
No, I think it's all in development. I think if you talk to me, you know, 2 years from now, be different than 2 years ago, and like for better or for worse, I don't know which way it would go. I hopefully always better, but I mean, we're all human, so it's hard to tell. I'm sure I'd be the last person to know I lost my mind. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
And so I think that if I'm being honest, it really was as each thing came. So with each thing, I was like, how do I feel about this? How can I stop this thing from like changing me, or should I let this thing change me? And then just trying to assess as you go. I think that for the most part, I've been very blessed to have a lot of good people around me that help me stay focused, but also like stay just generally grounded, that like understand what I'm trying to do and like the goals that I have, and are willing to help me reach those goals, because I want to be able to help people the way that I was helped as well. And it's about figuring out the best way to do it, because you can try to help sometimes, and obviously it's always helpful to like be able to give somebody a spot or be able to do whatever the thing is, but I also think that it's about figuring out like a path forward and making that easier for the next person to go down all on their own, even if they never meet you. That's what like really helping looks like to me.
Laying out the next big blueprint to success to help future generations of comedians navigate their careers is huge. But Josh's influence has already been rubbing off on some of today's best comics too, like Chris Stefano or Michelle Wolf, who are both now uploading more long topical weekly sets on YouTube and Punch Up in this style. The same way Dane Cook was able to show comedians what's possible by using social media and MySpace, or Louis C.K. with mailing lists, or even Andrew Schultz and Matt Rife with the use of YouTube and crowd work. This Josh Johnson technique could be the next big thing for any comic who possesses the ability. Obviously, a lot more work goes into executing funny ideas on stage versus in a podcast, but if you really think about it, almost every comedian is already currently committed to sitting in front of a microphone and reacting to current events in a funny way every week in the low-stakes environment of a podcast, but taking those same ideas to the stage for an extended period of time adds an entire extra level. And literally doing stand-up is a lot safer way to make light of political news or heavier topics in this environment, just in terms of optics. Seeing a comedian on stage holding a microphone immediately signals to the audience that these are jokes, whereas podcast clips, even from comedians, can get easily misconstrued as dead-ass statements far more often.
Have you ever had a topic that you thought was going to do a lot better than it did?
You know, I'm not trying to
They're
like,
all just
no. I'm genuinely kind of like, there are a lot of them where I'm like, I don't know about this one, and then it ends up doing well or a little better than the last one or something. I'm trying to think of one that I was like, this is it. I can feel it, and then it didn't happen. And I think a lot of the early ones were that, if I'm being honest. Like, yeah, I think a lot of the early ones had that vibe, but that's also not understanding YouTube yet, not having like built up a community yet, like all that stuff. And so that's another reason why you got to cast that stuff aside, because it like you can't let it affect your work.
Yeah.
You know, your work is going to last way longer than all that other stuff. Like when we remember people, we don't remember how many tickets they sold or anything. We remember how funny they were. Right. And so I'm trying to be funnier every day.
And I guess this you kind of answered this a little bit, but just in a different way of asking, is there ever something that could happen, like let's say like the CEO shooting or something, where it's like, this is huge news, but you don't feel that funny about it? Do you ever feel like internal pressure to be like, well, this is the thing, and I'm the guy that makes a viral video every Tuesday doing stand-up about the thing?
No, because I think it's important to talk about things at the right time. If you jump on a thing too early, that's how you see these influencers land on their own like grenades, because it's like they jumped on a thing immediately. Turns out that person was the wrong person, or that person didn't do the thing, or the more information came out. So it's like, if you're trying to be best, you don't need to be first. Like I think that's a good point. You know, you can just let things go, and even if people expect you to talk about it, you owe it to them to provide them the best work. You don't necessarily do that by just like doing what you think people will want, or even always doing what they tell you to do. You know, like I think that you have to be making things that genuinely are what you believe are your best work, and putting those out. That's what I'm trying to do. So yeah, a couple things have come and gone where I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about this. Like I know that people are DMing me about it, or people are asking me to talk about it, or like it's big in the news, but I'm like, there's something here. Like I don't, this makes me uncomfortable. I'm not gonna like just get into the thing just to say I did a set on it. You know?
Do you write down or type down an outline of these thoughts, or everything, or because you do a good job of either actually doing this or making it seem like you're really like thinking and like pulling things out of your brain while you're on stage and thinking about these things? Are you writing down kind of what you want to say, or like how do you do it?
Yeah. So I make outlines for sure, and I try to write out things as best as I possibly can up until the minute, because like I don't know, you can ask anybody that I work with, sometimes it really is like that little last second, because honestly, if you write it down, you remember it better. And so it's like you just like going as much as you can, even to that last second, sometimes helps you remember it later on stage and stuff, and connect dots you hadn't already.
And then does it just leave your, because you have what, like 40 hours already posted this year, like does it just leave your brain immediately? Like gun to your head, could you do a set that you did 2 months ago that's on YouTube?
Not verbatim, but I could probably tell you the beats of it.
So you're just like developing your funny thoughts on these topics, so then that's just kind of like in you because you're a funny person, so it's more of like a...
Well, no, it's like I will do my best to write out even the tags for when they pop up, and the rest is just trying to perform it all.
A lot of times nowadays, comedy gets judged and discussed like it's purely just about analytics on screen instead of real-life performances and funniness of the jokes. But the Josh Johnson phenomenon is not just limited to YouTube.com. The total amount of tickets this guy's been moving over his last 2 tours is f***ing bonkers, dude. Not even to mention the offstage impact Josh makes on every community he visits. We personally saw him sell out 3 shows in Austin at the Paramount Theater all in one day, and I kid you not, he did a different variation of his show for each of the 3 crowds. Which might sound insane, but it's actually just been business as usual for the Flowers Tour.
What is your favorite thing about doing 3 shows in one day, and what is the drawbacks of that?
Sometimes the drawback is that the first show is so early that everybody is kind of like in a different headspace. You know what I mean? Like I feel like at the early show, I'm just like a little bit more curated to the experience they must be having. Whereas like, let's say you do a 4, a 7, and a 9:30. 9:30 is like when show's supposed to be happening anyway, so it's much looser. 4 is like, all right, I want to prove to them why it was good that they came to a 4 o'clock show. So I have to like nail it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah, it's daylight outside.
Yeah.
So do you have any favorite parts about doing 3 shows in one day, like going back from the first one to the third one? What's your favorite show actually out of the 3?
I do think that sometimes that middle show is it can end up sometimes being the most energetic show. It depends on when the tickets went on sale, because I don't just put up 3 shows outright. I'll add the shows. If let's say I can only be in town for a day, we put 7 o'clock up first, and then obviously you're gonna put 9:30 up after that, and then we put up maybe 4 or earlier if it looks like enough people want to come. And so sometimes the 4 o'clock is crazy because they were the last people to get tickets, so they almost weren't able to do the show or something. And then sometimes the 7 o'clock is the hardest hitting because it's like the people who were the most excited, so they bought it first. And then, you know, not to give you such a non-answer, but sometimes that 9:30 is the wildest one because it's later and everybody's like had their dinner, had some drinks, just there to have a good time. So it really depends on the city as well as like the date for which show is going to be the best. So I feel like favorite is not really it. I try to make sure that I bring the same level of quality, if not try to make every improvement I can between shows for that last show. So especially when you have sometimes I have different things I want to do for the different shows. So there will be some shows that day that are potentially all the same set, but then there are some shows that day where the first show set is not the last two shows set, because once again, it's I'm trying to make sure that the people that come to the 1 or the 4 or the 2:30 or whatever like that are also getting the same level of experience as the people that come to the 9:30. And sometimes the people that come to the 9:30 make it a little easier for you because they're all right, we're chill, we're relaxed, we're in it.
That makes sense,
you know? Very thankful that I can do 3 shows. That still kind of blows my mind that people want to come at that clip, but I'm just having a good time, and I'm very thankful that the people that come to each show have a good time. There's not well, we saw him at 7, and you really got to catch him at 4. If you want quality.
There's no rumor out there.
Luckily that's not the case.
Yeah, that's awesome. So 3 shows is awesome. You're at, I believe, 7 at the Wilbur right now.
I think so.
Sold out. When you're selling tickets at this clip, do you have any thoughts of going to arena shows, bigger venues? We see a lot of comics doing that nowadays, doing NBA arenas. It seems like you have the fan support behind you to be able to pull that off if you wanted. Have you ever thought about going to the next venue, or what about theaters do you really prefer?
I just want to make sure that the experience that people have when they come is very intentional for every step of the way. I don't know. There's not a venue that I'm even necessarily particular to. Obviously, comedy clubs will always be elite because they're the base of what we're supposed to be doing, and it's where it's the most intimate, and you're able to really feed off of the energy of everyone in the room, and everyone can see you. Clubs like Cap City, clubs like Comedy Cellar, New York Comedy Club, and all these other places, there's not a bad seat in the house and everything. I think that when you get bigger venues going, it's important to also curate that experience more. And so I really want to make sure that at every step of the way, you're not just adding size to these venues just to do it, or for some bragging rights, or for some look at me type clout. It's more just okay, I have built a show now that needs this amount of space, so let's go here. So that way everyone's still having a really good time, and you don't lose the quality of your show and the quality of the experience. Because I think, in my opinion, sometimes it's a mistake to go to arenas just because you can. I want to make sure that the tickets stay affordable, and that I'm learning enough as well. And so I'm still learning what it's like to be in these theaters and handle these breakdowns and do the finals and the settlements and things that need to be discussed ahead of time versus things that can be negotiated the day of and stuff. So as you're learning all that stuff, I don't want to ever put people that want to come see me in a position where they're paying all this extra money, but for what? You know what I mean? I want to make sure that I'm super intentional. That way, when it is a bigger venue, people can know and trust that a bigger show is coming.
The heroic rise of Josh Johnson on YouTube truly could not have happened to a nicer guy or harder worker. And if you're somehow unfamiliar with his comedy but still watch this entire interview, check out Josh's channel after this, or his recent appearance on Are You Garbage and our interview from last year. And speaking of podcasts and interviews, guest spots from last week. The Joe Rogan Experience featured Kash Patel, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, Ken Burns, and Protect Our Parks number 15. Two Bears, One Cave was Tom and Mark Normand. Steph Tolev came all over your mom's house. Ali Sadiq and Kim Congdon were the guests on Legion of Skanks. Ali also sat on the couch with Soder. Tom Segura was on Bad Friends. Story Wars was a battle between Tony Hinchcliffe, David Lucas, and Valerie Vaughn. Lemaire Lee took a trip to Stuff Island. Ben Stab was a guest on Durag and the Deer Tag. Dan St. Germain sat in the Wayback. Trey Crowder stopped by the Honeydew. Kevin Smith was on Whiskey Ginger. Sarah Jessica Parker was a guest on The Adam Friedland Show. Jordan Jensen was on We Might Be Drunk. Ricky Smiley stopped by Bertcast. Chris O'Connor was on You Be Trippin'. Joe List visited Savi's World. Giannis Pappas and Brian Simpson were on Kill Tony. Oz Perlman was on Flagrant. And Josh Johnson was the guest on Are You Garbage?
You're trying to find something garbage about you that's not about you from your hometown, which we just...
Oh, that's not great, though.
Yeah, a lot of fridges outside.
A lot of outdoor fridges that needs a new roof. Dr. Pepper machine. Dr.
This has
Pepper
got nothing
machine.
to do with him. This
I
is
mean,
humble
this is-
beginnings.
This is the humble beginnings.
This
he
is
comes
the
from.
close you could get to something trashy. Is a bad hotel in the small town that you grew up in,
I mean-
and got out of, and bought your mom and your aunt a house
You're
in
not gonna get
Georgia.
over that.
But if you go to the exterior photos, I think there's a dog on the roof. I think there's one there where
No, there is. There's a dog on the
there's a
roof.
dog on the
He's
roof.
not wrong.
So that dog loved being on the roof. I don't know whose dog that was, but that dog would be on the roof.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and J.D. Vance visited this past weekend with Theo Vaughn. Carrot Top took a ride on the Harland Highway. Giannis Pappas was on B and Ian. Adam Fink was on the Fat Fish podcast. Chris O'Connor and Dave Temple were on Matt's Secret podcast. Brett Gelman took his shoes off with Rick Glassman. You Know What Dude featured Mike Feeney, Mike Cannon, and Brendan Sagalow. Fuzzy was on The Solid Show. Sagday DePod had on Jod Rzinski. The Tim Barley Show featured Rob Cruz. Nick Kroll was on Working It Out. Kevin Dillon hit the links on No Bad Lies. Harland Williams went on a second first date. Joey Avery had a rough week. Michael Ian Black was on The Burbs Bros. And Di was actually interviewed on the Pastor BS podcast talking about the origins of Joke World. As far as new stand-up comedy specials that are either out right now or coming out soon, we got a big batch out on YouTube right now, starting off with Jim Norton, Inconceivable, Ali Sadiq, Rugged, Taylor Clark, Dad's Hero, Drew Dunn, Positive Stuff on the Don't Tell channel, and Mike Falzone, Come Find Out, was released by 800 Pound Gorilla. There's also a brand new tribute to Ken Flores out on Hulu right now, and coming out later this month is Steph Tolev, Filth Queen on Netflix June 24th. Josh Johnson released his weekly stand-up set per usual, this time with a new set about the Trump vs. Elon drama, which we made an entire video about last week. And last but not least, if you already binged season 2 of Tires and are looking for a recap video or more information about season 3 and the future of the show, check out our new video about Tires on the end screen right after this. We'll also put our interview with Josh Johnson from last year, just in case you want to go back-to-back Josh Johnson Joke World videos. But honestly, the real good stuff can be found on our Patreon, which is where we put all the extra footage that we didn't use from this 50-minute interview with Josh. But enough for me, that's all I got for you this week. Thank you so much for watching the Joke World Comedy News right here on YouTube, and send us a message on Instagram if you want some free Joke World stickers sent to your house in the mail. These are what they look like. It's the logo. They arrive in the snail mail. It's awesome. Everyone goes crazy. Dog pile on the mailman. It's great.
At Joke World. That's it, at Joke World.
And the world is WRLD.
That's a great YouTube channel, Joke World. Check it out.